Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Nikitinaknits. My name is Evgeniya and in this video I would love to share about new knitting patterns that were released in December of 2025. This month is crazy because a lot of inspiration, a lot of coldness, and of course we're all knitting, we're all so excited. And as usually I comment on the yarn, the recommended yarn by the designer and my own opinion on that. Would I go with this or maybe I would go with something else? So grab your knitting, grab your favorite drink, in my case is some spicy tea today, and let's dive into gorgeous December knitting patterns. The first one is Nordic Snowflake Chunky by Cheryl Mokhtari or Cocoa Moon Knitwear. This is the designer I'm really paying attention to recently. She's releasing a lot of interesting designs that I'm very attracted to, and I guess she is very good at construction as well because the shaping looks usually very well, and I like how most of the sweaters sit not only on designers' body and pictures but also on others, on testers and people who need the projects. And this sweater is not an exception. It is so cozy, so warm, so fluffy. I just imagine how soft it is and lightweight. So this is a worsted weight pattern with 15 stitches per 10 centimeters. It is knit on 5.5mm needles and 6mm probably for the colorwork section, and it is a top down seamless round yoke construction. So you start at the top with the neck ribbing, then you immediately jump into body increases, then stranded colorwork, and then after stranded colorwork you have additional option for the short rows, probably at the back and maybe even at the sleeves, to raise the whole back in relation to the neck. So sometimes the short rows are applied right after the ribbing, sometimes they're at the back after the colorwork section, and sometimes they're just none. But I strongly prefer short rows that help to raise the back towards the front, and that is very important to me. So of course I would do that. The recommended yarn is 2 strands. The first strand is blown alpaca thread, which is quite thick, and the second strand is alpaca lace with some silk and cashmere in it. Both of them are from the brand Sisley Rigid, which I've never tried before, but I really like how it all looks, how lightweight, cozy and soft the fabric feels, and why to go for something else? I would go with this yarn recommendation for sure. The colorwork section looks very nice, very simple, very short as well. I think it could be knitted by people who never knitted colorwork before, so very beautiful. So we can choose a strong contrast like red and white colors, or we can choose a way more muted beautiful contrast like beige and a light or light gray and white. So you choose what you prefer. I would probably go with a bit less contrast. I like her version, and maybe I would go with even more muted versions so you can still see those snowflakes but they don't scream to your eyes, because this is a worsted weight project and I don't want these snowflakes to be so huge. Jumping straight into the next one, which is a Rosy Yoke by Lene, which is also colorwork sweater and is also round yoke that is knitted top down. So this pattern is the continuation of her first very successful version of the Rosy sweater. It just went completely viral. People were knitting it, enjoying it. I also loved that version, but I didn't see myself knitting it and wearing it. I loved it seeing it on others, and every time I saw it in someone's knitting podcast, I was immediately clicking and watching. It's such a beautiful project, but for myself I couldn't just see it. And when she released this one, the round yoke construction with the same motif, I was completely in love and I thought I will knit it for sure. So this is an iron weight project with 17 stitches per 10 centimeters. You knit it simply top down without any shapings, no complications, nothing. There's short rows right after the ribbing here after you complete the mock neck, but I noticed that in some pictures the neck is a little bit too pulled to the sides. So I guess it depends a lot on the shape of the body of the person who is wearing the sweater. Some people have a more sloped shoulders, some have shorter, longer necks. We're all different. So I guess I would really be careful when I'm starting the sweater. So I would always try it on and see if I like the depth of the neck. And if I don't have enough depth of the neck, I mean the difference between the back and the front, I would always increase the amount of short rows I'm doing at the back before I start the colorwork section. So after you're done with the short rows, you're just knitting these beautiful roses with the colors I did choice. But after the colorwork is completely mindless stockinette project on 5mm needles. The yarn recommended is quite prickly. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'll put the name of the yarn in the screen, but I've heard so many times from people that if you're sensitive to wool, you shouldn't be using that yarn because it's really itchy and pokey to the skin. So this is a really high neck sweater and I would really be careful with which yarn I'm going. So I would recommend 2 options. The first option is the new yarn from Sadness Garn, Atlas. I'm now preparing a video with all of the new yarns from 2025 that I'm enjoying, that I would like to try, and I actually will show you the swatches on that yarn. So I contacted the companies, I asked them to send me either the swatch or one ball of yarn so I can create the video and showcase the swatches of the new yarn. I'm so excited for that video. I'm preparing it since summer. So Sadness Gone Atlas is going to be in that video. You can subscribe to my channel and wait for the video. It's going to be probably next week out, and I will share all of the impressions about the new yarns. So I would replace this recommended yarn with Sadness Gone Atlas, because while that yarn feels a bit sturdy and still woolly because of Norwegian wool, there's still 30% of merino, and that adds a lot of softness, and it feels very smooth, like velvety yarn. Is very nice feeling. It's even hard to describe, if I'm honest, but I didn't find it so scratchy. Yes, it's not the softest, but I don't know, I think I could handle it next to skin. So for those who are very sensitive to wool, including me, another option could be La Manna Como Grande, which is a 100% merino wool, which is extremely soft. I actually have one ball of it in my stash for yarn testing, and it feels extremely soft, super nice, and quite thick, which is very appropriate for this project. So very beautiful sweater, and I think many of you would fall in love with this for sure. So the next one is an Ornament Sweater by Sallyknit. This is a brother to Storm Sweater by Petite Knit, but Petite Knit's Storm Sweater is a DK weight sweater, and this one is an Aran weight sweater that is knitted on 5mm needles, which goes way faster. So they have very similar ideas. They're both tom-down drop shoulder construction sweaters. They're both knitted simply with knits and purls, no complications at all. And different sections of the sweater keep you very engaging. You constantly think about getting to the new one. This is what I've heard from people knitting Storm Sweater. And the whole sweater feels very cozy, roomy. It is quite oversized. The recommended ease is between 20 and 30 centimeters. This is a Korean designer, and I usually like Korean designers, as you may know from my playlist of Japanese and Korean designs. And just for you to know, when you go to Ravelry description and you want to find all of the information, there's not written sizes. The sizes are mentioned on the picture that is listed within all of the other pictures of the designs. So first time when I opened the Ravelry, I was like, where is the size range? How am I supposed to buy the pattern? But then I saw the picture, of course, with very beautiful measurings of the bust circumference, the sleeve circumference, the length, and all of this nice details. So you do have very good size ranging chart. So the recommended yarns for these projects are two options. First one is worsted Nakyank yarn Tasoko, which is a 100% superwash wool, and the second one is mohair from Nakyank yarn as well. So I do have their I'm Wool 4, which is also 100% wool, but is not superwash, and I really love that yarn. It feels very nice, very soft, but not so heavy or not too flowy. I even swatched with that, and I wouldn't risk trying superwash yarn in my case. I'm just not so in love with superwash wools in general, so I try to avoid them, and that is a nice option to replace with. The next one is Aven Cardigan by Irene. She released a very beautiful buttoned jacket or cardigan. I can't really call it a jacket because it's quite thin and airy and lightweight, but the way it's shaped with this beautiful mock neck and with the buttons and with the structure of it, it feels a little bit like a jacket. Very beautiful, unique cardigan that instantly grabbed my attention when I saw it on Instagram when she was knitting it. And the color combination, of course, this gorgeous melange gray that combines with this bottom band of blue color and the ribbing, and the white or slightly transparent buttons are so beautiful. I'm so in love with this one, and the construction looks very beautiful. But first let's speak about the cardigans. So I think it could be a very beautiful middle range cardigan where you can still use it as a fancy piece, because it does look special because of this fuzzy, lightweight, beautiful yarn and the color combination. But also you can use it still on regular basis whenever you just have your everyday basic life. I love this type of pieces because they don't just lay in your wardrobe for the special case, and you don't wear them to death in your house because they're only meant to be worn in casual days. So it is something in the middle, and also it's quite practical because of the high mock neck that is going to protect you during the cold days. So I would wear this jacket or cardigan a lot in spring, in early autumn, where I don't want to wear my jacket yet, but this one could be a very beautiful layering piece. Also, I want to point out how beautifully the white top pops out through the cardigan that combines so nicely with this light gray and blue color, which looks very beautiful and fresh. This is a worsted weight project that you need on 4.5mm needles with a gauge of 20 stitches per 10 centimeters, and the recommended yarn is Majo Garn Puno Fine, which is a cotton thread that is filled up with alpaca and wool, and that gives you a lot of lightweight feeling, a lot of fuzz and fluffiness, but still is very lightweight, and it is going to be quite warm because of alpaca. So I've never tried this brand and I would like to, and I would for sure go with this yarn because I love this type of structures, this type of blown yarns, and I'm 100% sure that this is going going to be very beautiful. So the construction is knitted top down seamlessly. This is what I found in the description, but I think it is a contiguous shoulder that is somehow mixed with the raglan, because the front lines here from the neck look like some sort of mix between saddle shoulder, compound raglan and raglan, which is a beautiful slight line that goes to the armhole. And at the back of the cardigan we have a bit more sharp angle that is looking a bit more like saddle shoulder. So the whole construction looks very interesting and smart to me, and this cardigan for sure is dropping into my knitting list. The next one is Hachi Sweater by Knits by Summer. Hachi means bee in Japanese, and this honeycomb cable motif represents that. We can see two versions of the neck that is represented in the pattern, which is always appreciated. We can choose what we like. If I were to go with the rolled over neck, I would make it way more chunky and more voluminous, or not to do it at all, so just go with the round neck version. Overall, I really like this sweater because it looks not so busy. We only have this cabled panel in the front, the honeycombed cable, and then two braids on the sides, and the rest is just the seed stitch. So there is no pattern on the sleeves, there's not too much stuff going on, and I think it's very nicely aligned here at the top. The cables just continue beautifully, which is a thing for a lot of people. I don't have any problems with interrupted cables, but if the designer managed to do it very beautifully without any seams or interruptions here and the pattern, I always appreciate it. It looks so beautiful. So this is a seamless construction. You knit it top down, where you start the back panel first, then you do the two front panels with increases for the neck, then you just knit to the armholes, connect everything in the round, keep on knitting down, and cast on stitches or pick up stitches for the sleeves and knit them down. So the yarn recommended is Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino, held together with Knitting for Olive Silk Mohair. I've never tried Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino. I know that is a bit more rustic than regular merino, the thin thread, but for this sweater I don't care so much about the softness. I care more about sturdiness, a beautiful stitch definition, and that it lasts for a lot of time, because as we can see, the sweater will take some time, but not too much time. It is knitted on 4.5mm needles with 17 stitches per 10 centimeters, and it is an Aran weight project, so not so much time. Next one is Naomi Sweater by Marias Verden. She released Naomi jacket recently also, and I really love that jacket. And now when she released the sweater, I fell in love even more. I really like how wide the neckline is. This is what I really appreciate from Korean designers, because the least favorite thing in the cabled sweaters for me is when it's quite close, quite high up to my own neck. So I always look for those cabled designs that feature very beautiful and deep round neck. I really love that. It just, I don't know, something beautiful, feminine and special about it. So this sweater is a beautiful balance between warmth in winter that keeps you nice and cozy because of the cables, because it's an Aran weight project, but it still follows those feminine, breezy, lightweight look because of this gorgeous opening, the split hem right at the bottom of the sweater, and the neck, as I already mentioned, and overall the oversized fit. And of course the vibe of the designer helps, because all of her designs are very beautiful and nice and slow. Every time I look at her designs I feel way more quiet inside and way more slowed down. I don't know how she's doing that, but this is the energy that I feel through the screen. I would love to knit a lot of her designs. A second thing that I quite appreciate in cabled designs, and that is not so busy but still with beautiful details that you want to look at, and this is the perfect case because we have these braids in the middle, this panel, but it doesn't scream to your eyes. It doesn't take all of the attention. Also at the sleeves we have the continuation of the pattern in combination with the moss stitch and the bottom of the sleeves and the sides of the body, and to me it looks completely logical and beautiful. So we're knitting this sweater on 5mm needles with the same yarn recommendation as for the previous pattern, Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino held together with the silk mohair, and I would go again with this combination because for the same reasons as I mentioned before. Sturdiness, predictability, a lot of people knit with this yarn and we know what to expect. The only thing I would replace is the mohair, actually in both options, previous sweater and this one, because Knitting for Olive is soft, but it's not the softest. So I'm quite picky when it comes to mohair. I'm a bit sensitive, and actually if you're looking for some mohair substitutes, you can watch my video mohair substitutes that a lot of people found really useful, and they actually speak a lot in comments suggesting this yarn or another. So I was very grateful to myself that I created that video, because a lot of people who struggle with sensitivity, like me for example, you could find some useful stuff out there. So I would go with a bit softer mohair like Pasquale Mohair Bliss or Link Mohair 21, that is way softer, all Lamana Premium, and this design is is knitted top down, completely seamlessly. Back panel first with the trapezoid shape, then 2 front panels, connect everything in the round under the underarms, knit everything down, and then cast on stitches or pick up for the sleeves and knit down. I don't know if there's short rows again here and the sleeve cap, but if there's none, I would add them myself. I don't see a problem with that. However, I always appreciate when there's short rows. It just adds a more beautiful slight fit and less fabric under the arms. Even if it's a drop shoulder, I still care about how much fabric do I accumulate right under the arm. Really beautiful design, for sure goes into my knitting list, and I was actually already thinking what type of colors I would go for. So many iron weight projects today. The next one is Here's to Dreaming by Unwind Knitwear. I really adore this designer. Every time she's releasing a new design is literally a piece of art for me, because she combines very interesting colorwork motifs with a smart construction, which is my favorite if you know me. So the reason why I still haven't knitted anything from her is just because while I found those patterns very beautiful and attractive and I would just stare at them for hours, I wouldn't knit many of them for myself because I don't find that style very mine. But this time she released a compound raglan, which I'm dreaming to knit. I've never knit a compound raglan. Compound raglan means that the line of the raglan is not straight down, it is different, so it has different rates of increases along the shoulders and the body. So it's a little bit straight, then a little bit down, then a bit curved to the bottom, and overall it looks like a little S, and it could be completely different from the front and from the back. So usually it's very more engaging raglan knitting rather than increase on every second row everywhere, which I'm honestly a little bit bored already of, and I was searching for beautiful compound raglans. There's some designers out there that do compound raglans and I'm looking forward to knit from them. But when this designer released this beautiful compound raglan with a gorgeous white neck that is looking completely minimalistic but still very interesting, I was in love. So I'm very looking forward to knitting this one. It is an iron weight project that is going to go really fast and that will probably teach you a lot of new interesting skills. And of course it's knitted top down seamlessly with quite an interesting yarn. What is this yarn about? Well, the yarn is completely synthetic. There's a blend of acrylic and polyester, which is not my case. I would never knit with synthetic yarn. So I would go for something else. I would use Lene Carpaint DM, which is on my list for quite a while. I've touched this in a yarn shop. One of my knitting friends, Ina, she knitted the whole Sophie hood with that yarn. It looked very beautiful. And the contents of the yarns are 70% merino wool and 30% alpaca. It has a very nice twist to it, and I feel it's very soft towards the skin, and I would for sure enjoy this yarn in this gorgeous, roomy, oversized raglan. So that could be a good choice, and overall I'm just in love. Thank you for creating this sweater. It's just very, very beautiful. Next one is Maisie Cardigan by M Knits. The pattern is not released yet as I'm recording, but it is going to be released on 29th of December. When I saw this pattern developing, I was shocked how beautiful it is. This is just a jacket probably that you could wear outside. It's going to be really warm. It's going to be very sturdy and stiff, not stiff, but like harsh wearing, I could say. This is how I see it. So I would use the yarn that would hold up and that is not going to be like so flexible or flowy. So this is my vision of this cardigan, and she needed 2 versions, this beautiful yellow one and the wine color. Oh my god, it's just so nice, so cozy and beautiful. This is a top-down raglan knitted completely seamlessly. The amount of things that is going on is crazy. There is a lot of cables, a lot of different motifs under the arms, and on the side of the body there is this squared motif. So there's a lot of motifs placed in here, but I feel like they have a lot of thought in them and they are placed together quite harmoniously. If we look in the middle of the back, there is this 3 stitches line that is also communicating with the raglan lines. So also on the side of the body we have the braid that kind of separates the front and the back, and that mimics the seam of the cardigan. So a lot of things look very thoughtful if we really take a close look at the design. The stitch gauge is 32 stitches per 10 centimeters in cabled pattern and is knitted on 4mm needles. Recommended yarn is light DK weight held together with lace or sport weight held together with lace. So in this case she used Knit Picks palette held together with drop skid silk mohair. In my case case, if I were to knit this, I would maybe use Isir Jensen held together with mohair, Isir as well, because I'm not a big fan of drops mohair. I knitted for this and it was shedding like crazy, so I just don't want to repeat the experience. And if you have access to Knitpicks palette, the yellow sample is knitted for this. It's looking very beautiful, so I see no problem with going with that option as well. The next one is Ninon Sweater by Moreca Knit. This is one of my favorite designers as well. She's very nice at construction and at the styles that she's picking up and overall design and yarn choices. I'm in love with most of her designs, and this is her first cabled design, which looks absolutely beautiful. Usually I'm not such a fan of really oversized, really roomy sweaters, but this one, if I were to knit this, or when I will knit this, for sure I will be going for the suggested amount of positive ease. I believe it's like 30 centimeters or so. It's very wide, it's very beautiful, and it's completely worth all of the effort. As a few previous cabled design, this sweater is the same. It has details, but it's not so busy. It has a beautiful harmonious panel at the front and the back of the sweater, and the pattern continues along the sleeves. The only thing I was hesitant about is the gap between the body and the sleeves. So it looks like the pattern is literally broken from the body and then it instantly continues. I didn't know what to feel about that, if I like it or not, but this shoulder detail, literally the seam, the imitation of the seam that goes along, that continues to the sleeve, actually saved the situation, and now I really like it. And then I thought, what if the cabled motif would be completely connected with the sleeves? Maybe it would be too busy and too heavy because the sweater is really big. So that was a very smart choice, because usually what we have in between of the panels is either seed stitch or moss stitch or any other sort of structure. Here we only have purl stitches. That's why this gap feels way more visible, but at the same time it adds a lot of lightness, because seed stitch and the moss stitch is quite more thick and heavy, and you add overall weight to the pattern. So it does look very beautiful, very feminine, at the same time very thoughtful. As usually from Moreca Knit, you knit it top down completely. You do some neck depth shaping, which is not often case in patterns overall. What it means is that the back panel is not just the trapezoid shape, but it has like a scoop at the back of the neck, which you create with a short rows at the beginning of the sweater, and I really like it. It adds way more professionalism and a beautiful look to the whole shaping of the sweater. And as usually from Moreca Knit, you do have way more shaping, way more details in the pattern that maybe not for beginners, but for intermediate knitters and of course more advanced. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous design. This is a worsted weight pattern knitted on 4.5mm needles with 19 stitches per 10 centimeters, and the recommended yarn, one of the recommended yarns, is Peruvian Highland wool by Olena. I have not tried this yarn, but I've seen this in the yarn shop, and I've seen of course many different projects people are knitting with this. I'm in love with this wool. It is a Peruvian Highland. It is so affordable, it is so high quality, it has a good amount of drape but still holds the shape really well. It is also very warm and even has a little bit of halo on the top. When you block it a few times, it releases a little bit of fluff. So of course I would go with the Olena Peruvian Highland wool for this design, and honestly I just can't wait for the proper moment to cast this on. But I planned so many things already and I have so much yarn that I just can't fit it in right now. If you want to see all of my winter plans, they're not only winter, they're winter, spring and summer plans in the way. So if you want to watch and hear about my plans, you can watch my previous video. I will also put the link down below so you can check it out. Next one is Rebertsia Sweater by Olena Sitalkina, a Ukrainian designer that I'm so in love with. If you watch my videos, you know how much I'm in love with her and how long I'm able to speak about her, and I'm ready to keep speaking about her in every single video of my channel. She's just a master of what she's doing. She's so smart, so talented even. She's creating such small amount of patterns, but are very thoughtful, that are very complex in creation process. So she can create one design for so many months without rushing to release it, but just making it perfect. Not very often case in the designing world, let's be honest. So right now she's releasing Rebertsia Sweater Men, which is a continuation of her Rebertsia Sweater Women. She released in July a female version. I'm in love with it. She kindly gifted me the pattern, and for sure I will be knitting that version. If you want to hear about female version, you can watch my July knitting patterns roundup. The link is down below as well. So right now we're having male version, and this is so beautiful because it's extremely classic. You're putting a lot of effort into the sweater. It probably makes sense to go for a little bit more special yarn because the amount of time the sweater is going to take is tremendous, and we want to make sure that men who we are knitting for, or if you're a man, you're knitting this for yourself, you want to make sure that it's going to last for years. What I like about such designs is that you never get bored of them. So look at this sweater. It's just 1x1 rib all over with the beautiful details on the shoulder, like these angles that actually showcase the shoulders really nicely, and that's it. Depending on the color that you choose, either high mock neck or folded over neck, it looks very minimalistic, but still with detail that you want to appreciate as well. People who don't like 1x1 rib, this pattern is not for you. I cannot say that I'm a huge fan of 1x1 rib, but I knitted very long folded over hats with 1x1 rib, and I don't have any problems knitting the hems that are really long. I'm fine even with twisted ribs, so I will knit for sure female and male versions. And what I can say for sure that after knitting this project, you're going to be a master in 1x1 rib. Is going to be probably so neat, and for sure you will not have any more tension towards 1x1 ribbing. I can promise that, because look at this huge garment that is knitted actually on 2.75 or 3mm needles depending on your yarn. Actually, I forgot to mention that the pattern is presented in 3 languages: English, Ukrainian and Russian. You can only buy patterns from her website, so there is no Ravelry page, but if you want to check Ready Works, you can go on the Instagram. I'll mention the hashtag that you can check out. And just if you go on her Instagram, there's a lot of interesting information about all of her designs. So the whole sweater is knitted top down completely seamlessly. It is a saddle shoulder construction. She is only doing saddle shoulder and she mastered it. You're starting at the top here at the neck. After that, you're going back and forth with the short rows, doing increases at different rates at different places. There's complicated stuff going on, but it's so engaging, and you want to really look at the description. There's charts and there's written descriptions. The whole pattern is just like a piece of art. She's allowing you to download your personal size, so with all of your numbers for your specific size, so you never get confused. After you're going back and forth, eventually you connect everything in the round and you're increasing already for the sleeves, for the body. And of course, it's not at the same rate of increases, it's all different, it's all very thoughtful. And then you split for sleeves, you're knitting it down to desired length, and then you knit the sleeves that were on hold. What's very important for this project is the yarn choice. So if you pick the yarn that holds the shape even a little bit, it's going to stitch in because it's ribbing. If you want this flowy, oversized look, just like the designer intended it to be, you need to make sure that the yarn doesn't hold the shape. So the yarn weight is light fingering, and you need to really think which yarn you're picking. So I can give you a few options that are casual, a bit more budget friendly, and a bit more fancy. So the first one I was thinking is 2 options, like alpaca socks or Katya Alpakina, I think it's called. They're the same in their idea and in the wool content. There's 70% sur alpaca in length and just 70% alpaca in Katya and 30% polyamide. I'm actually knitting a project with this yarn from Lene, and I really like it, so it doesn't hold the shape at all. The only thing, in alpaca, ribbing does look a little bit messy, so that's something to consider. But still, polyamide adds some roundness to this, and I would just need to swatch and see how's the ribbing. Second option could be a bit more pricey, which is Milano from La Mana. It is super lightweight yarn, which is 90% merino and 10% cashmere, and it is 180 meters per 25 grams. Now, La Mana Milano is a super light yarn, so it is designed to be extremely lightweight, which is very important for male garment. And it is a carded yarn, and it is not so tightly spun, so I guess that could work. I do have La Mana Milano in stash, and I really want to swatch for this project, because if it works out, I will be using it for my husband's sweater, that's for sure. The fourth option in mind I have is knitting for olive merino, actually, but I don't want to say that it's going to work out. You need to swatch. It's just that it's very popular yarn, and it is a light fingering weight yarn, and I guess the merino that they're using is a carded merino, which doesn't really hold the shape usually. So I suggest that you make a huge swatch, like really take your time and put like 20 centimeters to 20 really measure it, really block it, and see how the fabric behaves. If it works out, that could be a gorgeous option. Why not? It's a beautiful yarn. And the fourth very fancy version, I would say, it is cashmere from Pasquale. I'm knitting actually designed from Olena as well, Krublik jumper right now. It is a sport weight yarn, but I'm knitting this on 2.75mm needles, and it works out beautifully. So that yarn feels absolutely crazy. It is super soft, it is super luxurious, it is super silky and flowy, it is beautiful. And also Pasquale has cashmere lace version, which could also actually work out for this project, but the stitches would be a bit more airy and they would have a bit more gaps in between, so that depends what you actually prefer. And I actually have 10% discount for you if you wish to go for this option. All you need to do is just to go to Pasquale's website through my affiliate link, and everything at their website, yarns, patterns, needles, anything is going to be already with 10% discount applied. When you add it to your cart, you will see this little note. So of course, having a huge sweater for the men in this cashmere is something very special. And I think these projects that take so much effort and so much time, they do deserve some great yarn choices. I actually knitted a whole hoodie for my husband, also from Olena Sitalkina. I spoke a lot about this project, finished object, in my podcast number 8. The link is again down below. Just if you're new here and you haven't seen that project, really deserves some attention. I worked 10 months on that item. So that is Rebertsia Sweater from Olena Sitalkina that I hope you can knit one day. So how about another piece of art from a Ukrainian designer, Natalie Pelich? So it's called It Braids polo. I was waiting for this design for quite a long time. I spoke about this design in my men's knitting patterns. Check that video out, only male knitting patterns. It was really nice to create it. And there I spoke about this design that I'm really waiting for this to be released, and finally it is here. So Natalie Pelich is the designer who is releasing patterns on Ravelry. It is also available in 3 languages, Ukrainian, Russian and English, and a lot of people are knitting her designs. You can always check finished objects, they all look beautiful, and her designs are really interesting, intricate, I would say. So many cables, so many oversized beautiful jumpers, cardigans. It's just absolutely beautiful whatever she is doing, and this polo is not an exception. So this is a male polo, but I do think it could look also nice on the female body as well. This oversized, slightly drop shoulder look could look very beautiful. And another cool thing about her designs is that you buy one pattern and you get a lot of sizes from kids to adults. So you as a female, of course, can find your size range within this pattern. So the whole polo is knitted on 3.25mm needles. The stitch gauge is 32 stitches per 10 centimeters in stitch pattern. And the recommended yarn is Camello by Cardiff, which is 100% camel, and it is only presented in one colorway, which is this beautiful caramel color or cinnamon color. And I would go for this yarn, even though I'm not usually wearing these type of colors for my wardrobe. I still would do it because I imagine this is an undyed colorway, and I've never tried camel before, and I love Cardiff a lot as a brand. So the way you knit the polo is completely seamless top down. You start without the neck, you just start the back panel, the trapezoid shape. You're doing some back and forth knitting. After that, you're picking up stitches for the right panel, knitting front with the increases for the neck and for the opening. You're doing the same for the left side. Then you connect everything together, knitting in the round already down to your desired length. Then casting on stitches around the armhole, doing some short row shaping to create this beautiful sleeve cap that smoothly goes into the entire sleeve. Then you're doing the collar. You pick up stitches here and the neck. You're doing some neck bands for you to learn some new skills. This is not the easiest thing to do, but it does add a lot of sturdiness to the neck, and I would suggest to not skim that option because this is a male garment and that is going to have quite good amount of weight, and this neckband is holding the shape quite well. So then you're doing folded over collar in 2x2 rib, which is also cozy and a little bit thick and puffy, so nice and cozy. And then you install the zipper. So very nice. You're having this switch between lines of stockinette, some purl stitches and cables that look very nice and minimalistic, and they face the same direction all the time. So it's very logical, very intuitive knitting, I would say, but still you learn beautiful skills and you try some interesting yarn because this yarn is quite special. Well, that was it for today's pattern roundup. I just can't stop smiling. I'm so excited every time I record these videos, and I'm always surprised how much energy I'm getting by speaking about the designs that I like. Please let me know what's on your needles and what did you like from the list. I really enjoy reading your comments, and thank you very much for all of the engagement and all of the messages that you constantly drop. Thank you very much for being here, for watching, and I'm hoping to see you soon in my next video.